Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the veteran and first responder community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So, tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. Welcome, listeners. With us today, we have a long awaited guest who I've been trying to get on this podcast for a while, the amazing Phil Hedges from Mind Mechanics. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been a journey, but we got here and I love it. I'm so
Yeah,
happy to
we
be
did.
here.
Yeah, we did. All right. So please introduce to our amazing listeners who you are and what you're doing in the world right now.
Okay, so yeah, Phil Hedges. What am I doing in the world right now? So I work with the mind, anything unconscious. I've got a big background with hypnotherapy, and I I call it mind mechanics because it's so much more than just hypnotherapy.
Mm.
It's about finding out why people are unconsciously doing the things they are doing, saying the things they're saying, and behaving the way they're behaving, and bring that to the conscious so that way they can change their thoughts, change their habits or actions, and then change their outcomes in whatever they do.
Sometimes people
And
are like, I'm doing what? Why? Yeah, it's
yeah,
totally
but
unconscious.
and we all do it, right? Like whether it's just like, oh, I'm not going to have anything to drink this weekend, and like, I don't know, 12 o'clock Saturday with lunch, you're like, oh wait, oh man, I wasn't going to do that, now I'm doing it. And it's there's so many unconscious patterns and habits that play out in our lives regardless of who or what we do.
Mm.
It's about understanding those things and then being able to change them for the better.
So there are people out there that wouldn't even know that you can change those. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, okay. So a habit is obviously something that we're formed due to a belief or due to programming of something a long, long time ago. And they say it takes 21 days to create a new habit, but it can start from as young as 3 or 4. We were told something, we learned something, or we didn't like something, and we created a story in our own mind for it, and then we collected evidence to keep that going, and then it just becomes this unconscious thing that we consistently do. Like if you look at driving a car, when we first started, we had no idea, and now we do it completely unconscious. It's kind of the same way a habit forms for us. Is we start doing it, and we think about it a lot, and then by the time it's ingrained, we don't even realize it's happening. Like you don't even
Mm.
think about putting your seatbelt on. You don't even think about starting the car. You don't even think about your indication. You just do those things as you're driving.
Yeah, that makes sense. And can sometimes people create those patterns or behaviors as a form of safety?
100%, 100%. So, depending on the habit or the situation, it can either be completely sabotage, so that, yeah, in saying that though, the sabotage is because they're unconsciously trying to be safe. So, yes,
Mm.
let's just go with yes, it is the majority of the time it's due to safety. The unconscious mind, its prime directive, its main function for us is to keep us safe.
Mm.
So when it is playing out these things for us, it believes that is keeping us safe. So yes, we'll go with yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating because sometimes,
Mm,
your perception of safety can be completely different to old mate next to
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's a really bizarre world, right? Like so, I'll use like dating as an example for a minute. If like I'm going to use myself. This is different, but I'm going to use myself. So when I was very young, so just before I turned 7, my mother passed away.
Mhm.
And I created a belief that women I loved would leave me.
Mm.
So through my teenage years and early 20s, any relationship I had, I would sabotage or unconsciously and absolutely destroy, not even meaning to or realizing I was doing it, because I had this belief that the women would leave. So I protected myself from that by either leaving first or by being a jerk so they would leave or whatever else. And until I
Mm.
uncovered that and I could change the habits that I was having in that moment, it would continually play out.
Oh,
And
that is
yeah, so
fascinating.
yes, yes, it was a lot, but it was an amazing learning curve, and I'm so much better for it now.
And I guess when you find that out, it's like the great unraveling. And you might like, I picture
Yeah,
myself like looking back into my past going, ah, like
yeah, it's
all the
the dominoes fall into
breadcrumbs that
place.
led me to. Yeah.
100%,
Oh.
100%.
So this work you're doing is so fascinating. What actually brought you to this space and this work that you're doing now?
Oh, okay. So rewind. Uh, eight, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I was a martial arts instructor, and was the greatest job I've ever had in my life. I was training kids from the age of like 3 to 63. It was amazing. And as a coach, like an actual coach, you're not just like teaching sports. You're a guidance counselor, a relationship advisor. You're a mediator between kids and parents. You're all these other things. I,
All the
I loved it
things.
and adored it. And I had some friends of mine that were applying to become part of the TRO in the prison they worked at. So the TRO, or the ERG, is like in the movies you see all the guys with like the batons and the shields and the headgear, and they walk in and they like do all the stuff and fix the riots. And so I was teaching them some really basic defensive tactics to help them with their entry requirements. They were like, "Man, you should get into the prison." And I was like, "Yeah," because at that time, I'm like 5'7", not even 6 foot, and I would have been 65 kilos wringing wet. I was like, "Yeah, because I'm such a muscle bound, massive human, I should work in the prison." And they're like, "No, no, no, it's all about de-escalation."
Mm,
So I was like, "Oh, I can," they're like, "As long as you can talk and you can communicate really well, you should be you will be fine." So I was like, "Well, that sounds pretty good." And then they told me their salary, and it was like double what I was on, and they
mm.
got half the year off.
Yeah,
So I was
no
like, "I'm
brainer.
in." Yeah, I'm like, this makes sense. I get half the time off. I can make way more money. I get to put some of my skills to the test. This is going to be great. The bit they left out
Mm,
was, it's a fucking prison.
mm,
Like,
mm.
it is one of the darkest, dampest, most negative places you can imagine, and that's just the other officers. Like,
Yo.
that's before you're even dealing with the occupants that are staying there. So
Mm.
I went in, I gained like 22, 23 kilos in the matter of months. I went from a job I was active every day, 8, 9 hours active, to like needing to grab lunch on the go because I was so active, to being like sitting on my butt 12 hours a day, getting two bulk made meals free. And I blew out, and I physically, mentally, and emotionally just
Mm.
ruined myself over those 3, 4 months. And my sister had just finished doing NLP and hypnotherapy. So I called her up in a mess, and I'm like, "If I could just lose some weight, I'll be happy." Like, because
Seeking.
it's just one thing, right? It was always just
Mm.
one thing. If I can just fix this one thing, my whole world will be fine. So I went down and worked with her. Now, before I got there, um, I found out that my daughter's mother, who we're separated, found out that she wanted to move back to Sydney from Brisbane, and she wanted to take my daughter. And I was like, "I fully
Oh,
support it. We'll figure it out. Like, we'll do whatever. We'll figure it out." And I fully supported it, but I was getting my heart ripped away from me.
yeah.
We found out my father was terminally ill. He's still with us. We just know what's eventually going to get him. Um, and on the drive down, my partner at the time sent me a text message going, "Hey, now that you're out of the house, by the way, I've just packed everything up. I'm gone.
Oh
I don't want to
my.
see you, speak to us again." So
The
I
bus
get to
got
my
you.
sisters. Yeah, I got to my sisters, and she's like, "How are you?" I'm like, "I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm ready to walk into the ocean and just not come back."
Mm.
Um, and we worked together for 3 days. So like we'd do just a session of something, rest, chill out, have lunch, chill out, do an afternoon session of something, talk, have a great time. And we did that over 3 days. And by the end of the 3 days, I had no problems.
Mm.
Like, there was stuff going on in my life, but I knew how to deal with it. It was like, "Oh, okay, so I've got to do this with the apartment. Oh, okay, so I've got to organize this with my daughter. Oh, okay, I've got to do this." And there was no trigger, there was no charge, there was no like there was no
Story.
negative emotional attachment to it.
Mm.
And it was all very logical and like, "Yep, okay, situation, deal with it. Situation, deal with it. Situation, deal with it." And like, the clarity was so good, I felt like I could see clearer, like literally physically see
Yeah.
clearer. And from there I was like, "Wow, if I could learn how to do this, I I can really help, feed a man a fish, teach people to fish.
Mm,
Like this is cool. And
mm.
I just became obsessed after that, like literally obsessed. I dived into hypnotherapy and I trained under everyone I could in Australia to the point where I started training with the Elmans in America, and yeah, it just continued on and became a
And I've
it's a
seen this
lifelong
before.
obsession.
Like I've seen this pattern in friends of mine. It must be
Yeah.
addictive because I've had friends that have had success like you with multitude of things going crazy in their lives. And they've
Mhm.
had this big heavy backpack on, and like the hypnosis has taken the backpack off, and they've gone,
Mhm.
oh, I need to learn this and teach this and spread this. And it becomes like this cessation for like, I need to learn all the things. Like
Yeah.
and
Yeah, 100%.
and then because you can see and feel the difference that it's made for you, and you want to be able to serve and help others in that same space. So that's now what you're doing, yeah?
Yes, yes. I went down a whole different path with it as well. Like I gained world records. I went through the stage hypnosis
Oh,
stuff as well.
fun.
Like it's
Like
yeah,
making people
it's so
into
much
chooks
fun.
and stuff.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly right. So, like, I wanted to learn every side of how the mind works when it comes to the unconsciousness of it. So, like, yeah, I ran a few stage shows. I was training people. I was doing therapy, and as I said, I went and grabbed 2 world records at the same time because I really just wanted to test myself with it. And in my opinion, stage hypnotists are the real hypnosis masters because they have no moment of it has to work.
Mm,
Like
mm.
if they don't, they're not getting paid, they're not doing their thing, and
Yeah, and people
it's
will go,
on the
you're a
spot.
fraud.
Yeah. And you're like, oh God. So yeah, it's I love it all. I
It sounds
love
like
it
you
all.
love a challenge too.
Yes. Yes, 100% I do. You've got to test yourself, right?
Mm. And what have you loved the absolute most about all the skills that you've gathered in your little toolkit?
The simplicity.
Mm.
That's probably the biggest thing for me is I got told once that lazy people get things done because they don't like they find easy ways to get things done because they don't want to go through the long way. And like I have no disrespect to psychology or therapy or anything like that. And I think it's all so valid. What I love is how simply and easily, especially hypnotherapy, can make change.
Mm.
I can go see someone with the tools I have, do a session, and see instant change for them, whether it's anxiety, sleep, depression, smoking, weight loss, like
All the things.
performance, all the things. And that's what I love about it. Like
Mm. And I'm hearing like simplify to amplify is what I'm hearing.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, a hundred
just
percent.
get in there, try the thing. If it works, it
Yeah,
works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
100%, a
Have you
hundred
found
percent.
people it hasn't worked for? Are there any that like are so stubborn and closed off that it hasn't worked?
No, because I vet them out pretty quickly. So I
Mm.
like I had a guy who his wife rang me and she's like, I want my partner to quit smoking. I'm like, sure, no worries, let's do it. I'll come around and have a cup of tea and we'll have a chat and we'll see what's going on and go from there. And I got there and his wife was out and I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, really good. I'm like, so you want to quit smoking? He's like, fuck no.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. All right, no worries. Well, I'll finish the tea and then I'll head out.
Everything's
He's like, aren't you gonna
intention. You've got to actually want
yeah,
it.
he's like, aren't you gonna do the stuff? I'm like, no, you don't want to. Like,
Mm.
well, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to take, your partner's money. I'd rather just, if you don't, when you're ready and when you want to, let me know. If
Yeah, I
you
love
don't,
that.
that's fine too.
Integrity too, right? Integrity. Oh,
Yeah,
so here's a question for you.
100%.
If I'm addicted to
Yes.
dark chocolate cooking drops and I don't want to eat them anymore
Yeah.
because they're really bad for me, can you help me not
Yeah.
eat dark chocolate cooking drops?
Yes. 100%.
Oh,
100% I
yes.
can help you.
I'm going to
But
try.
then, but you see, this is the choice you have to make, right?
Mm,
You have to go, okay, I don't want to eat them ever again, or I'm happy with moderation.
never. So
Yeah.
bad for me.
And this is the thing. This is where people go, oh, I would like it in moderation. And you're like, okay, moderation's a slippery slope, just so you know, but we can
Yep.
get you there.
Yep.
But when someone wants to go nut done, that's a lot
Mm,
easier.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So you've now learnt from all these people, you've worked with lots and lots of clients, a myriad of them. Are you teaching people how to do hypnosis now yourself?
Yes, yes.
Ah, cool. Tell me about
I
that.
have my well, I have my own academy, the Mind Mechanics, like Mind Mechanics as my label, as my brand, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And so I teach people, yeah, hypnotherapy. So for people who are, and well, I was going to say for people who are like in this world, but no, what I love most about hypnosis and hypnotherapy is it can go into any niche, any business, any brand, anything. It's so adaptable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have people coming in learning how to utilize hypnotherapy for whatever else they're doing. So they can either use it for themselves, or they can teach other, well, they can see clientele, or they can do their own recordings for themselves. Yeah,
Mm,
it's endless. I
mm,
know I'm not
mm.
selling that very well, but it's actually
I
legitimately
see
endless.
it. I've seen it in the past. I've seen it with people. I've had it done to me. I had a
Mm,
hypnosis lady once, like I couldn't actually open my eyes, and I'm like
yeah,
trying desperately to open my eyes, and there was nothing holding them
yeah,
shut.
yeah.
Freaked me out a bit.
It's crazy. It's so good, and that alone, like the simple things you learn, like I do a sales training, right? I do a mind mechanics sales training, hypno sales, and people go, oh well, it's like sleep, buy my stuff, and it's like
Ah,
no, not at all,
swinging of the
not at
clock in
all.
front of the
Yeah,
face.
it's like, but if you can understand people's unconscious cues,
Mm,
you can understand where they're at, so you can create better rapport with them. Or if you understand the language people are using, you can understand like what they need.
mm,
So it's about having like a win-win-win, a win for your client, a win for you, and a win for the world, because
mm.
it's all ethical, it's all integrity driven, and you're actually trying to help.
Yeah.
And when you start understanding these cues, like you can have conversations with your children even and be like, yay, they're doing the thing I've asked them to do, because you've used certain language patterns, which
Yeah.
are hypnotic patterns,
Mm.
and they're like, oh, I'm doing the dishes. I didn't want to, but how have I started doing the dishes? Because
So good.
the conversation, yeah, it's like my daughter when she was little, I'd be like, hey babe, when would now be a really great time for you to clean your room?
Mm.
And she'd be like,
I see
oh,
what you did
now,
there.
okay, yeah. So it's an unconscious command, right? It's an unconscious direction. And she's like, oh, okay, and she'd be cleaning a room, and it wasn't until a couple of years after she's like, you were tricking me. And I'm like, no, babe, it wasn't a trick. I was asking you a question and you reacted to that question. That's all.
That's a
And
great
so
lead
little
magnet to
things
get
like that.
parents in, like a cheat sheet of ways
Yeah.
to speak to your child.
100%. 100%. So, like, yeah. And children are so great for it because from like under 10, they're just massive sponges and they absorb all the information. So
Which
you
is
can
good and
make
bad, right?
massive change.
Like that's why we
Yes.
want to be doing
Yes.
the work on ourselves so that we can help our children the best we can.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
I've got a curly
Yeah.
one for you. So I'm a somatic
Okay.
therapist. I'm all about the body, right? And I've heard
Yeah.
and know the subconscious is the body, right? So
Right.
I love the work that you do, and I'm 100% know that it works because I've had it done to me and the like. But tell me, is if we just do hypnosis and none of the integration work with the actual physical body and the body keeps score, I would love your take on that. So all the head work, all the hypnosis stuff, or does it actually work with the body as well?
I Great question. Great question. So from everything I've seen and witnessed, and I'll go back to the phrase I stated earlier. If you can change your thoughts, you change your actions. So by having that, there's an integration of both.
Mm,
So your thoughts drive your actions drive your outcomes. So you can you can lead with one, and the other will eventually follow. So if you look at someone who exercises a lot, they're like, oh, I'm really down, really depressed, and they just start exercising. Like, I just feel so much better, and I'm thinking more clearly, and I'm just doing this. But yet,
shifting it, it's shifting.
yes, they're only driving with the first step, which is the body.
Mm,
It's the same with the mind. If you can start getting them to think differently, their body will catch up and
mm.
start doing the things as well.
I
So
love that.
I think it's one in the both.
Yeah, 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 I
It's a
see.
chain reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it is mind, body, soul all interconnected. And
Yeah.
you as well, like say you do a hypnosis session for someone over 3 days or 3 sessions or even just one,
Yeah.
Do they have an integration work or homework or anything that you send them off with to keep that going, or is that it's just
Oh,
done?
yep, 100%. They have homework before they see me.
Mm.
So I went and saw a guy for memory retention, because he was studying his Bachelor of Psychology, and he's like, I just want to make sure that I'm retaining this. I said, yeah, no worries, we can sort that out.
Cool.
And I said, so what I need you to do every night before I get there, and I took him like through this really simple process. And before I even got there, he's like, I'm remembering so much more. And I'm like, yeah, because of the homework I've given you. Now we're just going to top that up and make sure that it's on fire for you. It's really running
Yeah.
well. And then what was really interesting about that session is afterwards he's come back. He's like, my wrist feels better. And
Mm.
I'm like, cool. Like, never heard anything about your wrist. And he goes, no. 3 years ago, I got it crushed in a factory, and I've had chronic pain for the last 3 years. And right now I don't have it. So as a side effect from him being put into trance and dealing with like just basic things and having this connection at the moment to his deeper unconscious mind, he's healed himself
He
from
shifted
some
imbalances and
chronic
blockages from
pain.
his body. Oh, I love it.
Correct. So I was like, cool, that's an added bonus. That's not what we were here for, but I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I'm like, you're welcome.
So awesome. I love that. And, I already know 1,000 people that would benefit from this work, if not millions, right? So
Yeah.
tell me, if someone is curious around all of the work that you do, the hypnosis, all of that, but they're just like peeping in and curious and not just sure, what advice would you have for them to get them across the line, get them through the door and actually trying this?
Like, what have they got to lose,
Mm.
really? In my opinion. And I'm a big person. Like, I know before we started, we were having a chat about trying to get our word out there and that. But I don't like chasing people, and I think if people want to change, they'll take the steps to change. And so if you want to change and you're tired of where you're at or what you're doing, like, come see me.
It's all about
Like,
choice, isn't it?
yeah, just take those steps. And don't get me wrong, those first steps are always a little bit scary and a little bit nerve wracking, but you're talking from someone who literally had nothing to like was done, to someone who's now thriving on life. So
Mm.
like, I've been there, I feel it. Just
Mm.
take those steps, whether it's with hypno, whether it's with any sort of PD or change facilitation. Like,
Mm.
take those first steps. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yes, everything to gain. And by the way, thriving on life. If I need to be cheered up, I go to your Facebook page. I look at the myriad of adventures you've been on in the last 2 years, my friend.
Thank you.
Tell the listeners a little bit about some of these epic adventures you've been on recently.
So last year I did Mount Kilimanjaro and almost died. It was the best experience
Oh,
of my life.
joy.
I know, it was literally amazing. It was
Mm.
so amazing. I I've got this thing about doing hard things, right? So I went and climbed the world's highest freestanding mountain, the fastest route I could, with no training. I
Oh,
did not train
Jesus.
at all. And yeah, it did not go well. I got to the top, but we ended up getting driven down, and just the best experience of my life. It was so amazing, and I needed every part of it. And then this
Mm.
year I went to base camp with my partner, and she really struggled, and I was like, this is amazing. I've been at altitude. I know what I'm doing. My goals to well, my first goal is to climb Mount Everest.
Mhm.
And so I'm heading also back to Nepal in November to do 2 other peaks. And then I'll head back next year to do my first 8,000 meter. And then the year after, so what, 25, in 2026, I'll summit Everest.
Yeah, you will.
That's the plan. Yeah, I
That's
will. I've
awesome.
got no
So
doubt about
good.
it.
So good. Yes,
It's,
keep kicking these amazing goals and I'll just live vicariously through you.
yeah, that's fine. You have no idea how many people are living vicariously through this. I get messages every day about, when are you going back? I need to see more photos. And the thing is, I keep inviting people. I'm like, come with me. Like, I've got all the connections. It's cheap. We can organize this really cheap. Just come to base camp. Come check it out. People are like, no. So
Hypnosis them into doing it.
yeah. Well, this is it, right? If they came with me, they'd get personal development every day for like 17 days. I'm like, just come. We'll have chats. We'll have a great time.
Yeah.
Come. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
eventually that'll happen.
Oh. Thank you so, so much for finally coming onto the podcast. It's been wonderful to have you. There's so much we could talk about. I think we could literally talk all day. However, I do think that we have broad brushed the top of the amazing work that you're doing. And thank you so much for what you're bringing to the world. All the details you'll need about Phil will be in any of the blurbs wherever this is posted. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
Look, yeah, today's a great day to have a great day, guys.
Oh, I like that.
So, and if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, just remember it's temporary, and just give it another 24 hours.
You
And
heard
if
the
the next day
man.
is just as bad, yeah, if the next day is just as bad, give it another 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. Such wisdom.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much, Phil. Katie out.
All good, Kate. Thank you so much.